Erin and Sara Foster, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
You know, where we met and where our past has crossed paths and led us to now is our fundraiser, A Time for Heroes. And, you know, it's meant to be a place where you can be yourself, and it's about having fun and being authentic in life in that way. And I know that you've both been coming for so many years. Did your parents ever talk to you at that age about what it did represent? Did you ever have questions? Can you remember, like, what is HIV? I mean, because clearly you were exposed to the discussion at a young age.
As you know, the 80s were a really, really scary time to have a conversation about HIV. It was like there was very little understanding around it and a lot of fear around it. And so we grew up in that generation. And then the 90s was really spent, from what I remember, trying to educate people on it, trying to create some normalcy, but it was still an extremely scary thing. You didn't know people had HIV. You knew at that point that it wasn't like airborne. You're not going to catch it by being friends with that person, but there's a lot of fear around it. You'd always think you'd always hear things like open cut in the mouth, so you can't kiss that person. Like a lot of misunderstood information. And then today we're in such a different place where you meet somebody like you who lives, I mean, you would tell me, I don't know if you live a completely normal, healthy life, but
we'll get there.
Completely different situation than you were when we were kids. So when we were kids, there was a lot of fear around it. And I think that
93, it felt like, oh my God, you have HIV that gets a death. In 93, it was like, you didn't understand treatment. You just didn't understand a route for treatment. It has been completely destigmatized for my daughter. My daughter's 10. And for her, cancer is a way scarier word than HIV positive. And if that isn't freaking incredible, if that isn't like how far this has come from when I was her age, I mean, there you go.
Yeah, totally. And look, you make an amazing point. It's true. We've come leaps and bounds. Stigma does still exist in this world in a fairly big way. And it's in sneaky ways too, which is really interesting. And so, part of the effort that I am a part of with the foundation and what we continue to do is destigmatize, but also like new narrative and a new dialogue, new stories from people that are living really healthy lives. I'm glad you asked. This is the reality of my status today. I'm super healthy. I have an undetectable viral load, and I take these 2 teeny tiny pills once a day. And, there are moments where I'll be in Africa and I'll be working with, a huge group of youth and young adults, and I'll take my pills in front of them, and the response is like no way, you just publicly took your pills? Like what? Like that's not okay here. And, and even sometimes here that happens. I mean, I had an experience recently, and I want to get your reaction from this. I mean, I had a family member that essentially, a young family member in high school who shared a fork with me at a dinner and texted me at 2 a.m. being like, am I going to get HIV? And I'm like, whoa, you're a junior in high school and this is what you believe? And so I feel like there have been leaps and bounds. The treatment is incredible, but how we are delivering this information and how we are destigmatizing and sharing these stories must evolve.
By the way, I think that people have gotten this very, very small glimpse into what it feels like to be the pariah in the room. Because when you all decide to get together, the last year and a half, we all been dealing with COVID. And I went to a birthday dinner, we all got tested, we all sat outside. And then 2 days later, I ended up getting a false positive, my husband and I both. And we were really scared. And the feeling we had for that 2 hours that we thought we were positive, you have no control over having HIV. You have no control over getting COVID if you are being responsible and you are the unlucky one who got it. But people treat you differently. And I can't imagine what that's like for you on your whole lifespan experiencing that.
Well, it's, so I was born HIV positive, and while I didn't have any control over that, and while my mom didn't have any control over her contracting the virus, through blood transfusion, Cedars-Sinai, 1981,
where I was born in 81. I mean, that could have been our mom. And that's what I always thought, I was born in 81 at Cedars-Sinai.
Right.
My mom could have easily, that could have been her in a heartbeat.
And that's, you know, it's that message. I mean, when my mother stood up at the Democratic National Convention in 92 and spoke, you know, it was this message of like, this is a human disease and this can happen to anybody. You know, there are a lot of people out there that contract this virus, you know, not from birth, whether it's through sexual behavior, whether it's through intravenous drug use, you know, and behavior is a really big component to this. I mean, right now, I showed you those two pills. Those two pills, I take those every single day. You know what that creates for me? An undetectable viral load, which means that I cannot pass this virus on to anybody else.
Under any circumstances?
Under any circumstances.
Sexually, to drugs, or anything. You cannot pass it.
There's not enough of it in my system to be able to pass. You know, but so much of this that we are talking about in the world now is we've spent so much time stopping the transmission from mother to child that now we have this generation of young adults that don't have access to the right education and the right information. It's kind of like this bubble that could burst, and all of our work over the past, you know, 15, 20 years could go out the window. And so much of what we experience in that and it is how we're continuing the conversation and how we are truly destigmatizing, because look, there are people out there who contracted it through, let's say, sexual behavior. And so whether it's stigma around taking pills, whether it's sharing the right information here in the US about education into HIV and AIDS, this is a chronic illness right now. You said there's almost, you know, a better perspective on it than you would have cancer. I mean, the truth of the matter is HIV is not going to kill me. It's going to be something else. You know, we're all going to live and we're all going to die. And the beauty of what I've been able to at least find and what I try to share through my advocacy is being HIV positive doesn't make me a victim. And if God forbid you get a positive HIV test in this world, guess what? You have the opportunity to be perfectly okay. You can have an undetectable viral load. You will live a long, healthy life, and you can worry about all the other things that life is going to throw at you, but you don't have to worry about HIV.
So Jacob,
you know, yeah.
Sorry to ask you, but so how does it play out in your everyday life? How does it play out for you at a dinner party?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a unique case just in the fact that like I have a celebrity parent, and so disclosure was never my decision. So I've learned very well to pretty much be like, I am who I am, and if you don't like that, that's your loss. Like, continue with your life. I can't say that for everyone else. The reality is the psychological weight that people feel who don't have that confidence or don't have that individuality in that experience can be crippling. And you're going to get flack from certain people, but you're also going to get a ton of support from certain people. Like, I think the most important thing that people can hear in this world now is the amount of people that will support you for being honest about your HIV status greatly outweighs the amount of people that will not support you. So now I can't even count anymore how many HIV positive individuals have HIV negative partners and now have HIV negative children of their own that are healthy, that are strong. And that is the gift and the opportunity that every single person that's HIV positive deserves, and they can access it. But how are we giving them that information and that opportunity? And a lot of that, like you said I think that's amazing that you talk to your daughter about HIV and that she doesn't see a stigma in that, you know. But when I have you know, someone in my family who's in high school and you're going, wait, why isn't like your high school, you know, sex ed teacher teaching you about this? They're showing you pictures of syphilis, but they're not talking about the reality of like HIV and AIDS in your world, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, there are a lot of people that don't know the reality of HIV and AIDS today.
For my friends in the gay community, it's much more acceptable to talk about, and it's acceptable to say on a date, and kind of like part of the culture is like, where do you stand? Where are you at with an HIV diagnosis? Do you take PrEP? Where are you at with it? In the heterosexual world, it's just not talked about the same way.
The perpetuation of that stigma, whether we like it or not, is something that is steeped in our history, and we need to break it. We need to break it.
We're more comfortable thinking of it as a gay disease. It's either in Africa or it's in the gay community. It's uncomfortable for people to change their own narrative, because then it has to make them realize that like they could be the face of something that they didn't think they were doing the behaviors. Oh, I don't do drugs and I'm not gay, so I'm not going to get AIDS. It's so important to change that.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we have to break these stigmas.
Wait, Jake, can I ask you a few? I just have two questions. Yeah. My question is about how accessible and how affordable the medication is. Number one, is there legislature to try to make it like, they're trying to make insulin, they're trying to cap it, right? At like $4 to make it not so hard to get.
these are very, very relevant issues in the world right now. I mean, so first and foremost, the medication's not cheap. For the 2 pills that I take, it's $1,600 per bottle per month.
Holy shit.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so you're talking
dying who can't afford this? This is
yes. Yeah. No, access to medication is incredibly important. And yes, there are a lot of people that cannot afford this. But yes, I mean, access to care financially as well as geographically is a huge issue in the world right now, because if we could give everyone access at an affordable and localized level, these 2 pills, which could also, like I said, just be 1 pill a day, could give you an undetectable viral load, which means that you will not pass it on. And like I said, behaviorally, we can eradicate this disease by combating the things like access to medication and awareness and education and destigmatization and all those things as well. But yeah, it is
That's
very
what we
real.
need to be fighting for. We need to be fighting for. So we have a bunch of things to be fighting for, but that needs to be fought for, because you cannot eradicate AIDS until it is affordable and available to everybody.
You're spot on. You're spot on. I mean, you guys, you have your podcast, you have your fashion line. You guys are entrepreneurs, and you guys are rocking and rolling in a lot of spaces. How do you feel these industries can support this dialogue and get involved with how to continue fighting for an AIDS-free generation, and maybe support bringing some of this discussion up to the forefront?
Social media has really given everybody an opportunity to destigmatize something and bring awareness. And I think that we're living in it's an interesting time. Social media has also, on a positive side, given everyone a platform. The positive really is that you can shine a light on things like this, and you can destigmatize it, and you can put a face to these issues and personalize it. I do think that is an opportunity for people like you and like us to shine a light on something that maybe somebody else would have been too uncomfortable or just to ask about, or just not educated. Sara and I haven't been educated. You know, we're learning from you now how actively of an issue HIV still is in America, which is really not something that I had an understanding of. And I don't think Sara did either.
No, we're storytellers. Erin is a writer.
You are.
It's up to us to write characters who are HIV positive and show them living normal life.
There we go.
And hire people in our companies who are HIV positive. Those are ways that we can participate in the destigmatization. You know?
I think that's beautiful.
Because it's high time we see an HIV positive heroine character on these TV shows, in these films.
Yes, you hit the nail straight on the head. Like, you two in the space that you're in. Yes, I think that storytelling is the cornerstone. Look, thank you so very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. We love this conversation, and we're so excited to keep talking to you and just, let this conversation grow for more and more people to have awareness and be helpful in any way that we can. So you are awesome, and we're so glad that we got a chance to talk to you.
Back at you.